no GMO, and gluten-free. This is all just a subtle plug to start the episode. Yeah, puns. Hello, and welcome back to What's the Safe Word? Today we're going to try something a little bit different. There's someone online that I've vanilla been watching, and I can hardly contain my excitement. They've actually agreed to sit down and join me today, but let's let them introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Ash Hardell. I am a YouTuber.
So Ash has agreed to come onto the channel today to collab with me. But before we get into that, Ash, what do you talk about on your channel?
My channel is kind of all over the place, but sometimes it has a focus on sexual and gender diversity. I'm a genderqueer person who's comfortable with any and all pronouns, and I am a pretty vanilla, not super kinky person.
And would you say, hypothetically, that carrying out this vanilla lifestyle has also carried over into how you taste?
Now I do. I just worked out. I'm kind of salty, actually.
Ew. Oh, yeah, it does taste a little salty. With a hint of foreshadowing? And Ash has agreed to be on the channel today to talk about what it's like to be vanilla, because I don't understand it. It shouldn't be judged, and sex shaming is not cool, it's just gross. I mean, right, Ash? But in all seriousness, and without taking Ash out of context again, editing amp. Sorry. Today I wanted to sit down and interview Ash about what it means to be vanilla, how you talk about having sex, how it affects your sex life, and just kind of the general ins and outs of that area and realm. Essentially just doing everything I can to make this video completely unmonetizable. And because we get a lot of questions on this channel about how to talk about kinks with your vanilla friends or partners, or even introduce your partners to that kind of conversation. Anyways, without further ado, I don't want to suck up any more time. Let's start this interview with a vanilla person. So let's just kick this off. I always knew I was pretty kinky. I kind of got feelings, when I saw someone tied up or there was like leather involved, but there was never really any kinky sex education in high school or college or any sort of school. How did you know you weren't kinky?
I really like this question. So obviously when you subscribe to or are part of a societal norm, you don't really go through a realization moment about that part of your identity. Like I can tell you how and when I knew I was gay, or when I knew I wasn't cis. I have memories of those things. But asking me when I knew I wasn't kinky is like asking a cis guy when he knew he wasn't a woman. He'd be like, I don't know, always. I'm just me. I didn't have to think about it. However, when you're outside of whatever society paints as typical, you don't really have the privilege to escape that "oh shit, I'm different" moment. So it doesn't surprise me, Amp, that you have memories of when you started putting the pieces together, realizing you were kinky and understanding that that was different. I don't have that though. I'm like that hypothetical cis guy. I've just always known. This collab though has kind of forced me to reflect on my vanilla nature in a way that I have never done before, which has been kind of cool. And this video is the first time I've ever used the word vanilla to describe myself.
I really love that questions like that can kind of bring about and start a conversation about how we define ourselves and kind of what we enjoy both in and out of the bedroom. But do you think if we talked about kinks in sex education, even when sex education's taught appropriately to begin with, we would have more kinky people and less stigma?
Yes, even a couple sentences and a brief mention of kink would make a huge difference, I think. That could be the world's first baby step. Something like, there are so many diverse ways to have sex, and as long as it's safe and consensual, it's all good.
And just being able to talk about the different relationships that exist out there really does help decrease stigma. And there are so many ways in which we can have sex that are perfectly normal, and we just never talk about them in sex education.
Some sex acts are hetero, some are queer, some are between two partners, some are between more. Also, masturbation is a thing. Some people use toys, some people are kinky, some people like penetrative sex, some people don't like penetrative sex. There is no one way or right way to have sex. That could be it for now. Then you could move on, and that would already be leaps and bounds better than sex ed is today.
So what do you think causes all this stigma for kinksters to begin with?
I think the stigma comes from very limited representation in both media and education. This lack of rep makes kink seem taboo or something that kinksters should be ashamed of, which is sad. And then when there is representation in the media, it's often unhealthy, like BDSM being entangled with emotional abuse and manipulation. That's not the right way to do BDSM, but that's how we see it in the media. 50 Shades of Grey. Yuck.
Really? Rule of threes, come on. So what do you think are some similarities and differences that exist between kinky relationships and vanilla relationships?
One similarity is both groups use communication and consent, or at least they should. In vanilla relationships, people might establish consent by using phrases like, "Are you in the mood? Do you like that? Does that feel good? Should I keep going?" But what I love so much about the kink community is that consent, boundaries, communication, plans, safe words, etc. are much more explicit and clear. When I've talked to my kinky friends, they tell me about how they directly talk to their partners regarding what is and isn't okay, and perhaps you even agree on a safe word. That's probably the thing I most admire about kinksters. And I think a lot of vanilla relationships could really benefit from having that kind of clear, explicit consent and communication.
And I personally think that a lot of the times vanilla people get that bad rap of not knowing how to or not being able to communicate properly. But I know and have a lot of friends in vanilla relationships that communicate just fine and sometimes do it better than the kinksters. But there is one big difference between kinksters and vanilla people, and that's how you negotiate sex and how you keep sex from getting monotonous. How do you think, personally, vanilla people can keep it interesting in the bedroom?
Unexpected sex is a fun way to mix things up, like right when they walk through the door from work, then and there, clothes off, meow, 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 meow.
Go on.
Making sex, like, disgustingly romantic is a thing I do. Rose petals, mood lighting, music, all those cliches. I like doing that once in a while because it says to my partner, "Hey, I'm trying. Do you see me trying? Look how hard I'm trying. I want you. Clearly, look at all the things I did."
And actually, kinky people, they plan romantic dates all the time too. Me and my primary partner, Christopher, who's been on the channel before, we plan date nights every month, and we try and go to a movie or just spend time with each other that has nothing to do with kinks. Though instead of rose petals, it's usually popcorn that gets thrown around. He misses his mouth a lot, so. Kinksters and vanilla people are very similar in that way. Vanilla people can put extra effort into the bedroom and kind of just romanticizing everything. The same way kinksters can put more effort into a scene and planning the sex for that night. But kinksters do still have one thing that vanilla people don't, and that is gear. How exactly do vanilla people, in your own opinion, keep it sexy in the bedroom?
Sexy underwear is another thing.
Oh, so okay, well, vanilla people do have sexy gear then, but what about when let's say you go to a sex party or a dungeon, what do you wear there?
I usually wear a nice sweater. I just usually hot glue a dildo to my forehead.
How does that work exactly?
I don't know, but I'd probably come packing with a ton of condoms, dental dams, and other things to keep it safe.
But you just said you glued them. How? That was an oddly appropriate transition card. You're welcome. Anyways, so you're a very open person online. I'm sure you've come out in many ways to your friends many times. Have you ever come out as vanilla to your friends though?
Well, it was a brisk autumn afternoon in 1969. I gathered up all my chums and I told them that... No, I never came out as vanilla. Again, kind of a privilege that vanilla people have, I guess. That's interesting.
So hypothetically, let's say your partner was really into kink. Hi Grace. How do you think you guys would best approach this conversation? And what are some good questions that you guys might ask each other?
I'm pretty open and direct, so I'd probably wait till it was just my partner and I and we weren't busy, there were no distractions, and I'd just say something like, "Hey, can we talk about sex for a minute? How are you feeling about our sex? Would you ever want to try something different or new? Would you be okay if I wanted to try something different or new?" Because I've always been kind of curious about... insert thing here. Would you be open to trying that out sometime?
Honestly, I couldn't have said it better myself. Regardless of being kinky or vanilla, both parties could benefit from being open about new interests like that, even if those interests weren't specifically kinky. You know, it's almost like there's similarities between both vanilla people and kinky people, and we're all just normal humans looking to make ourselves happy and fulfill our lives. No, that'd just be too convenient. Well, Ash, we are coming to the end of the episode here. Do you have any last closing remarks as the vanilla ambassador for all vanilla people everywhere? No pressure.
If I had to say anything to Kinksters, as a vanilla person, I think it would be, hi!
Hello! Sorry, that force of habit, I continue.
You're a little different than me, and that's okay. I think there's a lot of things you do that sound fun or cool. Do you want to teach me about them a little? Because in the end, I don't think there's anything bad or scary about us being different. We should all be happy about each other doing what makes us happy and comfortable, right?
Funny you should say that. Honestly, I think there's so much pressure put around kinks and our sexual interests that it can scare a lot of people who identify as vanilla. Now that we're near the end, there is one last thing that we do at the end of every episode, and that is to have a safe word. And we always let the guests choose. So, Ash, what is your safe word?
My safe word is going to be swirl, because while I am a vanilla person, I'm definitely curious about the kinky world, and I admire a lot of the practices in the kinky world. So swirl!
Oh, I think Swirl does a really good job of kind of summing up this interview. Vanilla people, kinky people, it's not as binary as many people make it. There's so many shades of gray in between. Someone should write a book about that. And if you want to find out more about identities, genders, sexualities, do I have a book for you? It's the ABCs of LGBT. Oh, look, written by Ash, what? But don't just take my word for it.
And now I'm going to plug my channel, which is a pun. And if you didn't get the pun, you're probably vanilla. Like me. Amp and I did a video over on my page where he walked me through a lot of new toys that I ordered. He taught me about pervertibles and tickle torture, and introed me to puppy play. It's one of my favorite videos I've made in a while. Amp is so fucking cool.
Oh, my robot heart. Ow. But in all seriousness, thank you so much for being on today, Ash. You're incredibly insightful. I really appreciate the work that you do, and I've read this book 3 times. There's even like little notes in here with like paper, and I've written things. And beyond that though, if you're one of our viewers here on What's a Safe Word, please go check out Ash's channel, linked below and in the card here. And if you're one of Ash's viewers, welcome. If you have any questions, leave them down below. See you guys next time on What's a Safe Word. Stay kinky, have fun, and be safe. Bye. Oh, wait, no, Ash, that was awful. Really good lighting. Hello. Welcome back to Puppy on like TV, like Blue's Clues. I found a clue. Mail time, mail time, mail time, mail time. I am sitting in a room alone talking about Blue's Clues.